Welcome everyone. I am Taruna Reni Singh, Assistant Professor, Faculty of Juridical Sciences, Rama University. Today, we shall be discussing the topic of sampling, which is covered under methods of data collection under research methodology. So, first we should begin with the definition of sampling. Now, sampling can be defined as selecting a sample, selecting some part of an aggregate or a totality of a universe. It is a systematic procedure of selecting a limited part from a decided population or a universe, or it can be termed as a procedure when you select some part of it on the basis of a defined principle, applying it to a universe for deriving a conclusion or a judgment or an inference. To understand sampling, we need to understand the need of sampling. It saves time and money. For example, it is less expensive than the census study and produces relatively better results than census studies. Second, it enables us to acquire better results and measurements as it is performed by trained and experienced invigilators. Third, the star point is that it is the only method in which the population is of infinite number. Now, we need to understand what is the aim of sampling. The aim of sampling is to study the larger number without actually studying the every unit of sample of the universe. With the object of creating a principle which is applicable to the entire universe. Now, we should understand what are the fundamentals of sampling. Now, we should move to the fundamentals of sampling. The first fundamental of sampling is the universe. As you can see, the entire circle is called the universe. It is the entire part of the population. The second fundamental is the sample. The sample is one subset of this universe. For example, this one star is one subset or the case or the element we shall be researching on. And the third subset is the population. The population is all these stars present in this, and this is the universe. All the stars present is the population. This is the sample and this is a subset. Now, we shall move forward on to types of sampling. There are two types of sampling. First being the probability sampling, wherein it is divided into four parts. First is simple random sampling, second is systematic sampling, third is stratified sampling, and fourth is cluster sampling. The second part which we comes to is non-probability sampling, which is again divided into four parts. First is convenience sampling, second is judgment or pervasive sampling, third is snowball sampling, and fourth is quota sampling. Now, in probability sampling, the sample has a known chance of getting selected as a sample, wherein in non-probability sampling, the sample which we select does not have any known chance of getting selected as a sample. Now, let's begin to understand what is probability sampling. As I said earlier, probability sampling is the process in which the sample has a known chance of getting selected as a sample. Here, this type of sampling is basically used by the bigger organizations or media. For example, the lottery system. The first type of probability sampling is simple random sampling. Now, in this process, every sample has an equal chance and opportunity to be selected as a sample in the entire universe. For example, the lottery system. Here, we select the ticket on the basis of an assumption. Therefore, every ticket has a equal and a known chance of getting selected as a sample. The second type of sampling is systematic sampling, systematic probability sampling. Now, herein I will give you an example. For example, our universe is a size of 2000 units and we select the population of 200 and then we select the nth, that is 10. Now, when we start at 3, the nth number from 3 will be 13. Therefore, we can start at 2. Therefore, the nth number will be 12. And if we can start at 1, the nth number will be 11. For example, this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. We started at 0. Therefore, the nth number would be 10. Therefore, it is a systematic probability sampling. Herein you choose the interval and you choose the interval and then you choose the sample at that very interval. Now, the third type of probability sampling is stratified sampling, wherein we talk about the layers. This stratified sampling is usually used when the universe is a non-homogeneous mixture. For example, this is the universe as in a previous example. We use stars. Now we can use a moon. Now you see that this is a non-homogeneous universe. When there is a non-homogeneous universe, you tend to use stratified probability sampling, wherein you make two different populations and then you choose a sample from each population through using the method of systematic and simple random sampling. Now the fourth type of method is cluster sampling, wherein usually the natural groupings are called the cluster sampling. For example, we take universe as, for example, we take India as a universe and the states are natural groupings. Therefore, this could be tend to call as cluster sampling. Now we move on to other type of sampling, that is the non-probability sampling. As I said earlier, that in this sampling, the sample has no known chance of getting selected as a sample. The first type of non-probability sampling is convenient sampling. In this there is ease and accessibility of the invigilator, and therefore this is considered as the most unreliable source of sampling. The second type of sampling is judgmental, and this is also called purposive sampling. Here the invigilator selects the sampling based on his judgment and then produces a result which may be applicable or not on the universe or the each subsets of the universe. The third type of sampling is snowball sampling. Here what we usually do is that we first select the sampling through probability methods, that is one of the 4 methods of the probability, and then the sample of that probability method provides us with the new sample. For example, if I am doing a research on students who have qualified NET and who have appeared in LLM and not qualified NET, so I call a student who has given his NET examination and not qualified, and then ask the student to give me the name of another student. That is called snowballing. I do not go and find the samples, but my sample will help me to get me another sample, and this continues. Now the fourth type of sampling is quota sampling, wherein it is similar to cluster sampling, wherein the natural groupings are already present, although in this sampling there is no probable chance of selection of the sample. Now let's begin to see what are the stages of sampling, like what is the procedure of sampling. So the first step which you take is define the population. You need to identify what is the population which you need to research about. Now the second step is this: select the sample frame. You need to define, or you need to have a definite size of people or the units you are about to take a sample from, and what kind of sample you need to see. Determine the sampling technique. Now that which we talked about is that probability or non-probability, you need to realize that which type of technique you shall be using to observe this population which you have chosen before. Now, once you have decided which type of probability or non-probability sampling you are following, then you need to plan the procedure. That is, you need to define a principle through which you will select the sample. Once you have decided the principle, you will start selecting the sample, determine the sample size, that is of what number, how many units you will determine, how many units you will be studying for your research, and the sixth process is select the actual sample units. Now once you have determined the sample size, now you need to see what is the actual sample unit, and once you have done and identified the actual sample unit, you need to conduct the field work. Once it is done, you can actually come to some inferences or conclusion. Now let's move on to the merits and demerits of sampling. As we all know, it is time saving, it is less expensive as we compared it to the census case study. It is more accurate because it is performed by the trained invigilators. Now coming to the demerits of sampling is this: there is a chance of bias, as we saw that in non-probability sampling, it is the sample is selected on the personal judgments or on the personal convenience. Therefore, there comes a chance of bias. The second demerit is less accuracy. If the sample is not true, it becomes less accurate. And the third one is need of specialized knowledge. Sampling cannot be done by any non-trained professional. Therefore, happy sampling. Thank you for joining today.